Real Talk with Myron Mitchell and guest.
Here with Pastor Darriel Brown from Emmanuel Baptist Church, 2407 SL Badger Street. And we're here today to have a little real talk. And how you doing, Pastor?
Doing all right, my brother. How you today?
I'm good, man. I couldn't be any better, man. Highly blessed and highly favored.
Wonderful.
And I just wanted to talk to you today. You're new in town pretty much. How long have you been here?
So in town, 4 years, at Emmanuel, just over 2 years.
Okay.
So I say in the life of ministry, in the life of pastor, I'm still in freshman year still.
Okay. Since you've been here, how's it going for you?
I can't say enough how great things have been. Now, as we continue the dialogue, you'll hear that that's nuance. But overall, my take is it's been great, man. God's grace has really kept my family and I as we made this significant life transition. And it's been better than I expected coming to serve Emmanuel.
Okay. So you've been here, you said 4 years?
In Jacksonville.
In
4
Jacksonville,
years.
4 years. So you're pretty young pastor. Where you from?
So I am from Polk County, Florida. I claim the county. Now, if you're from Polk County,
Right.
specifically, I was born in Bartow,
Okay.
raised around Fort Meade, Bartow, and Lakeland is the town where I had most of my formative years through latter elementary, middle, and high school. So if I'm talking to people from the county, I have to specify. But when I'm away from the county, I just claim all of Polk County. That and my first 5 years of pastoring was on the east side of the county at the Friendship Baptist Church in Dundee, Florida.
So you pastored another church before you got here
Yes, sir.
in Polk County.
That's right.
Okay, that's wonderful. I didn't know that. When did you start your journey? How old were you, and what made you say, you know what, I got a call and I need the pastor, or I need to minister?
Sure.
It's not you don't get called a pastor; you get called to ministry. So, what was that like for you?
So I'll say the call for me was less of an instance and more of a journey through life. My mother will tell a story of me being very young, at about 3 or so years old, expressing that God told me to do certain things. Like I told her in the backseat of the car, God told me to preach, pray, and do good in school. Was that a call? Was that a beginning of a call? Arguably, yes. Do I even remember saying that? I don't. But there are different moments in life. I can go back to my great grandmother's home back in Fort Meade, Florida, where I would stand on a little stack of bricks, and that was my podium to preach on. Again, was I in the early stages of exercising something that would come to blossom in the future, perhaps. But specifically, I publicly responded to a call to preach at the age of 18. My first message was December 29th, 2004 at the St. Paul Missionary Baptist Church of Lakeland, Florida, under Pastor N.S. Sanders. So again, at the age of 18, I graduated high school about 6 months earlier. So still young, still green, much in life I had not yet experienced, but God's presence and influence in my life was significant enough for me to acknowledge it at a very early age.
And being at 18, I mean, you still had to go to college and
Yes.
go through the college life and go through the turmoils of ups and downs. How was that? Did that give you any temptations of saying, man, maybe this not for me? Maybe I want to do something else. How was that like?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So I think to answer the question regarding temptation, I think that's a part of the human experience overall. So we can seek to keep life as pristine as we may want it to be, but that real life stuff is dealing with and navigating the temptations of life, the questions, the wanderings, and so I did coming out of high school. First semester out, I was kind of undecided. And if you know Florida history in terms of storms, that's the year that 4 major hurricanes passed through Central Florida. I won't try to name all the storms, but it was just a tumultuous season of life, with dealing with weather, literally dealing with some things happening in my family. From a place of healing now, I can say, it was a season of divorce for my parents, a season of undecision for me, with regard to furthering my education. So I started with Polk, back then at the time, Polk Community College, which now has transitioned to Polk State College, earned an AA in liberal arts, then went on to FAMU in 2008, finished in 2010 with the School of Business and Industry. So those were very formative years of life, very, very much so on the job training,
Right.
both in ministry and in school.
Right.
And make no mistake about it, it was not it was not crystal clean, right? I was still exploring whether or not the club life would be my life, whether or not, certain elements of friendships, where they would go. And so definitely an interesting season of life. And here we are, 2004 or 2024, marked 20 years in ministry. So whereas I'm relatively young, I still have 20 years of ministry, given that I started at the age of 18.
Now that right there, I wouldn't have known. 20 years at 38. That's remarkable.
Yes, sir.
So you started at 18. You went through your college. You had 5 years of ministry in Pope. So how did you get to Emmanuel?
So the call to Emmanuel was something that I didn't see coming, and I'm almost glad I didn't see it. Not almost, I am glad I didn't see it, because it's one of those things. I believe that if God showed us everything up front, we probably would mess stuff up trying to make it happen. And so my family transitioned to Jacksonville without having Emmanuel in view. We moved here for career opportunities, to provide for our family. And after coming here for that reason, after navigating where we would live and taking months and months to sell our house back in Lakeland, finding a place up here, navigating new jobs up here, then doors open for me to begin to preach at Emmanuel, initially just to fill on the Sunday, just to fill a slot on the Sunday. That led to requests to come back and a request to formally join the process, or apply to the process to be called and considered as a pastor here. So again, I didn't come to Jacksonville with Emmanuel in mind. There were some other churches I was familiar with from earlier days of youth ministry and convention work, but really coming to Emmanuel was God opening doors that I did not foresee.
And I can say that you saying you didn't have Emmanuel, but I think it's a couple people, or maybe I'm not going to say a majority, but it's some people who maybe thought that you weren't the right one at first.
Sure.
But I feel like you have won them over. I feel like by your presence, from the things that you have done here, the 2 years that you've been here, I've only been here, I think, 1 year physically since you've been here. But the things that I see you do are wonderful. The things that I hear you, the innovation in your mind, the things that you say, you want to have this for the kids, you want to have a youth program, you want to be able to have some classrooms filled with kids and learning in the community. And I hear that from you, and I know that's your goal. How can you go about it with including everybody in Emmanuel, and even people out of Emmanuel who need to come here?
For sure. Yeah, man, you just articulated the beginning of the journey, right? When it comes to getting called to a church, especially in the Baptist context, the Baptist churches have what's called autonomy. That means a pastor or a leader is not dictated by a bishop or some state president or national leader. There's local autonomy in the church. And so it did involve a process of the church hearing me preach on several occasions, interviewing me, taking me through the ringer as relates to background checks, all of these things. And then the congregation voting on me being their pastor. One interesting thing is I never got the full results of the vote other than I was called. And so it was one of those things where I wanted to go back and ask, but the wisdom of the elders was like, why bother?
Yeah, you
right?
didn't need to know. If you won, you won. You
That's
won by
it.
one or a half a vote.
That's it. So why bother? So but to speak to how things have gone in these first 2 years, I've used this illustration of leadership, this alliteration of leadership of how we'll get it done, and it starts with loving on people. And if I'm going to love you, then I must learn you. And if I'm going to love you and learn you, I learn you by listening. Those three components have helped me tremendously in these first 3 years. And I've said, if I'm loving you, learning you, and listening, then it teaches me how to lean. And lean I use as illustration for serve. Because I've heard you out and I've decided I'm going to love you anyway. And I'm learning you, I'm listening. Now I know how you need to be served. And if we can do those things well, then God gives the equity for me to lead. And that's what's happened in these early years. So to your question of how do you involve the youth, how are we involved in the community, it comes with doing those same things to every person that I encounter, right? Sometimes it's multiple things at a time, but loving on our seniors, listening to our children, loving on our children, listening to our seniors, and getting them to do that to each other as well. And then leading with those findings, right? Coming back to show, hey, this is what you all have said. This is what God has said. Here's what you all have said. Here's what I see as pastor. Now let's walk forward.
Right. So I also know that been listening to your message, your mission of embrace, engage, and explore.
Yep.
So could you explain that mission statement to others who don't know what it means to Emmanuel?
For sure. So you'll hear a lot of alliteration with me, just using the same first letter, because it keeps it easily categorized in my mind, and I think it's also easy for people to remember. So started with the name of the church, Emmanuel, which I think is an absolutely prophetic name. It comes from the translation of the word of the phrase "God with us," and so we just use the first letter of that name, Emmanuel, to point to some key components that I think every church should have. We have to master relationships. We have to master discipleship, and we have to master stewardship. Relationship with God first and one another. And at Emmanuel, we're calling that embrace. We must learn to embrace God, and I say embrace him back. He initiated, as I believe it, he initiated love when he loved us before we knew ourselves. And so our response is to embrace that love back. You know, a parent offers you a hug, you receive it and you hug back. That's the embrace. And so we're doing that with God, and then we do that with one another. And again, it goes back to what I said about leadership. We're loving each other. Well, that next step is learning, right? So if we say we love the Lord, then we need to learn of him. Learn from him through his word, and the church term that we use for that, or the spiritual term we use for that, is discipleship. So it is to walk with, learn from, hear, and practice, right, what we're hearing. And so I look at, it's actually this series that we're working through right now, through the sermons, right, exploring discipleship, looking at those early years of Jesus calling, or those early days, because his earthly life, his earthly ministry was only 3 years. Right. But just looking at that early season to see what did discipleship look like at the start. And so I'm saying we're being disciples of Christ, but also we are discipling one another. I say the Lord has called me to pastor here. I need to spend some time learning of the history of this place. 133 years, right? The legacy of the past, right? Your relative, your ancestry, or your lineage, I should say, that comes through here. What's happened around Jacksonville over time? Why did the church move from Forest Street in Mixon Town to Grand Park off Division Street? What happened culturally, socio-politically in town to make that? And I look at all of those things as exploration, being interested enough to dive in and see what it is. And then that last step is engage. And engage is, man, put boots to the ground. We love on each other. We're learning each other. Now, how do we get the work done? So that's getting into the streets. That's getting into ministry. That's serving one another. And I think as we do those things in a cyclical fashion, you weave in and out, we become better as a church family. So that's where, and I call that our vision statement. The mission statement for Emmanuel is much longer.
Right.
I don't have it memorized. Right. And this is just coming from a business background. I do think we need to do some work to get our motto and our mission more concise, but I'm leading with vision first. Okay. Leading with vision in those 3 words, embrace, explore, engage. And you'll hear us like a broken record around here repeating those 3 words.
Okay. You're a young guy, very young. You have young kids, 11, 8, 6. Am I correct?
So far, you hit
11, 9.
9 is the one.
11, 9,
yep.
8, and 6.
Yep.
So, and you have three young boys, 1 young girl.
Yep.
What can we expect for is it going to be like a kids ministry? Are we going to have something? Because now I know my granddaughter is starting to come to church and she wants to explore, engage. So is there like a kids ministry for that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as it relates to youth ministry, I'm saying all of the above as we learn it. Emmanuel is the type of place where you can see where there once was a strong youth ministry, and I hear the stories, right? I've heard from you, I've heard from others who grew up in this church about how strong youth ministry has been. That's the background of Emmanuel. My background is I have served as a youth pastor previous to pastoring the church in Dundee. Back at what I call my home church in Lakeland, I served as youth pastor there for a while. And so I have ideas. I see insight from where the church once was, and also some insight from the things that I practice. But I also know that we're so far removed from those days, and there's a means by which to reach the children of today. And so when it comes to my children, is me leading them as a parent, but also me listening to them as a parent. What serves you well? I know it has to be the word of God. I know it has to be the gospel of Jesus Christ, but how are we packaging it for the children, right? Are we going to be creative enough to let them put TikToks out, right? Let them listen to the gospel in different formats. You know, it's great if they can sing the good old songs, but what if they want to produce their own stuff, right? What if it's a hip hop beat? What if it's, right. And so I want to be open to those various elements. But focus on the clear message of the gospel of Christ. And at Emmanuel, we currently have a youth ministry that's pretty active. Okay. Definitely room to grow, but they are activated at multiple times a week. Usually children's church on Sundays in at least some form. More to come on that soon. I have some ideas that they're discussing, and on Wednesday nights as well, they come for class. But man, they do, the parades in town, not just sitting watching it, but they're marching in it, outreach activities around town. So they are pretty active, but we have some room to grow in the area of youth.
Okay, I want to backtrack a little bit with the embrace, explore, and engage. You are engaging in the community by running through the community. You also you have an exercise team, and people were saying, I've heard them say we need to get out in the community, but that's what you're doing when you're engaging. And to people when you run and in your exercise group, can you tell us a little bit about your exercise group and how that helps you get out in the community and engage with others? For sure.
And let me just say that my interest in health and wellness comes as it's a blessing that has come from a burden. Earlier on in life, I've had pulmonary embolisms, blood clots in the lungs, and blood clot in the legs. I could have been gone in my 20s, man. So now that God has given me, this extension on life, I want to use that to the utmost. That, and I also want to avoid some of the stereotypes of the, the black preacher, the health wise, right? And so running for me, I picked up during COVID when gyms and that sort of thing were shutting down. But fitness overall, I kind of picked up through a health challenge at the prior church. We did a health challenge through the health ministry, and I won the challenge in terms of having lost the most weight, and those numbers were looking good. And so I just took it from there, man. And when I arrived at Jacksonville, even before we moved here, I got into contact with a running group called Runners Elite. And the leader of the group is Junior Johnson. And it just provided a space of inclusivity, a space where I could be embraced, right? And especially not as a pastor up front, right? I'm Darriel, a fellow runner, right? I'm in the pack running with you. I'm huffing and puffing, right? And I can be embraced in that space. And so it's been about, I guess, since July of 2021, running with that group. And so much has come from it. Community work, 5Ks in the community, even what was it, Easter Sunday morning here at Emmanuel, they met here. Right. And we ran a community together. So that's the running group. And then Brandon Fitness is a fitness group run by Brandon Warren, local Jacksonville guy. And he does an incredible job focusing on health and fitness. And again, that environment of bringing us together and it giving me something to focus on other than pastor and preaching, leading, work. I typically go early in the mornings, 5 a.m. And there's a couple of pastors that work out in that group. And it's just a safe space for us to engage, be challenged, and really, really have a healthy hobby working on our health.
I heard you say work. So you work a regular 9-to-5 job?
Yes, sir. So I am at a minimum bivocational.
Okay.
Which means meaning more than one or two vocations, but really is multi-vocational. Right. There are several things that I do. Okay. So yes, I still work a full-time job and in the area of business and contracts, procurement. That's what I do. I guess you could say to make a living. It's a door that God has opened and has not yet closed. And I constantly weave in and out of concepts. Well, when is it time to go, full time with ministry? But the truth of the matter is we've been full time with ministry. Mm-hmm. It's just that I have an additional assignment. Right. And really that paints a picture of life for me, man. It's sometimes I joke around and say I'm putting on this hat, taking off another hat. But realistically, at the same time, if you look at my social media bios, you'll see I'm a pupil of Christ, partner of Courtney, parent of 4 children, pastor of a church, a professional in my career, and peer in my community, all at the same time. And there are some days where I touch all of those spheres of life. So that's how I see it. But yes, I'm multi-vocational.
That seems to have a lot to a lot that seems to be dealing with a lot, and on an everyday basis, being a father, a minister, having a job, and a husband. That's a lot.
It's a lot.
And how do you deal with it? Like when I say how do you deal with it, I know you have to deal with it, mm-hmm. But it's sometimes where I know as a man, you have those low times where you like your battery is low. They say your battery is low.
Absolutely.
And you need to get recharged. How do you recharge your battery? I heard you say sometimes that you just find peace in just running when you run. Is that where you find like your peace, your meditation?
So let me say this notion of finding balance, I think is a fallacy, right? It's a constant ebb and flow. And let me also say that I don't handle it in my own strength. It's by the grace of God. But I look at my own schedule, both looking forward and looking back, like looking at yesterday or looking at this past week, like how in the world? Mm-hmm. There's no way in my own ability I'm able to navigate all of this. So it must be by the grace of God. But to make it more practical, like, yes, God's grace is in everything, but there are things that I must do. Part of it is having healthy prioritization, right? I thank God for being the pastor of Emmanuel. I thank God for having my career. But if I do those things well and I'm not a good parent and I'm not a good partner with my wife, I believe I've missed the assignment. So I'm constantly working to prioritize my wife as needed, my children as needed. But then there are those outlets, man. Like you mentioned, running creates a space for me where I can just process as I'm running. A lot of thoughts come to mind in doing so. You got to think about the chemical releases that come with exercise. And so sometimes it's on the run that I get my brightest ideas, or working through sermon points and nuances, ideas for the church, again, ideas for my family, all of that. And then when it comes to working out, most often, and we do it at different times of the day, but most often it's 5 a.m. to start at 5 a.m. So that means getting up, as my elders would say, 4 in the morning, literally 4 a.m. something, and just having that time to prepare for the day before the phone starts ringing, before folks at the church need an answer on something, before my job needs replies to emails. And so that's another pocket of time, just very early in the morning, where I'm able to process and prepare for the day, work out, get positive energy going, both physically, spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, and seek to be my best. At the end of the day, we still have to rest, man.
Right.
So we believe, God created the world, and on the seventh day he rested. And I don't think God rested because he needed to. I believe he rested because he knew we would need to. And so we have to build in cycles of rest.
Okay. And with dealing with so much, I know you got a lot ahead of you, Pastor Brown. I'm glad and honored that you came to be on my inaugural show. I know it's more things that we have that we probably can touch on. Maybe we'll touch on another day. Is there anything that you would like the others to know? Maybe people who don't come to Emmanuel, people who are seeing you for the first time. Is there any message that you want to give them when you got a chance right here on this platform?
For sure. The first thing I want to say is what I should have started with is appreciation and thanks to you for allowing me to be your inaugural guest. I have had ideas. I watch podcasts all the time and have had ideas about being on something, but you pushed it from idea to actualization with wanting to come and do it in this way. So I thank you for that and for whatever this will become. Most grateful. But as it relates to, who I am and who we are at Emmanuel, again, we are a place where we are seeking to embody Emmanuel. That is to be the body of Christ. Emmanuel I use interchangeably with Christ as a person. Jesus was called by the name Emmanuel. That is God with us. He represented that. And so this is a place where you should be able to come and experience that. Not just the place and the facility, but us as people as we move about. You ought to be able to experience us in terms of how we embrace one another and embrace you, how we explore the Lord and explore each other and explore our assignment here in the city of Jacksonville. And lastly, as we engage, it's time to get to work. It's past time to get to work. And so we invite you to check us out, engage with us, stop by for a visit. If not for church on a Sunday morning, some of the other activities that we have, Wednesday nights, any of the outreach activities that you see us do. If you see me in the community, if you catch me running, I run all over the city. If you see the black and electric green of Runners Elite, if you catch me running up and down Kings Road or Moncrief, and yes, I run through the hood because I believe you can't be scared of where you're going to serve. Now you won't catch me running at 11 at night, but you'll catch me outside. And whenever you catch me, feel free to engage. And we love to get to know you, get to meet you, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to introduce ourselves.
And I appreciate you, coming and sitting down here in the chair with me, having a real talk. I'm looking forward to the new things that you have going on in Emmanuel, and I want to shake your hand and, wish you greatness.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. And we
this,
look forward to more real talk to come.
Okay.
We kept it surface level this time, but we're going to dive a little deeper soon.
Yeah, we'll dive a little deeper soon. Real talk with Myron.